The hum of the airplane was constant, like a heartbeat echoing through the metal cabin. A young father sat by the window, his 5-year-old son clutching a small toy plane, eyes wide with wonder. The man's clothes were simple, his hands calloused, the kind that belonged to someone who'd worked hard all his life. Across the aisle sat a man in a tailored suit, gold watch glinting under the cabin lights, the kind of man who never had to worry about bills, diapers, or sleepless nights. The suited man glanced over and smirked. "You know," he said loud enough for the nearby passengers to hear, "some people really should think twice before bringing kids on flights. They cry, they kick seats, ruins the whole business class experience." The father looked up calmly. "He won't be any trouble," he said softly, his voice steady. But his son, sensing the tension, gripped his hand tighter. The CEO chuckled under his breath. "Right. A single dad playing hero must be exhausting, huh?" Bet the mother realized what a burden that was. A few passengers shifted uncomfortably. The father's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. He just turned to his boy and whispered, "We'll be landing soon, champ. Look outside, the clouds look like mountains today." The child smiled, pressing his face to the window. If only the CEO knew who that man really was. The single dad's name was Ethan Cole, a man who once wore a uniform that few dared to. A decorated Air Force fighter pilot, grounded after a tragic accident that cost him his wife and part of his own courage. Since then, his life had been about one thing, his son, Leo. He worked long shifts as a mechanic at a small airport, patching up private planes for people who barely noticed him. But to Leo, he was everything: the best storyteller, the best chef of instant noodles, and the bravest man alive. Today's flight wasn't just another trip. It was a promise. Leo had always dreamed of seeing where his mom grew up, her hometown across the country. Ethan saved for months to afford the tickets. It was supposed to be a happy memory, but life rarely stays quiet for long. The CEO sitting beside them was Richard Hale, the powerful head of an aviation company, known more for his arrogance than his business genius. When he mocked Ethan, it wasn't personal, he mocked everyone he thought was beneath him. To him, the world was divided between those who owned planes and those who fixed them. As the flight reached cruising altitude, turbulence hit. The lights flickered once, then steadied. Ethan didn't even flinch. Years of flying through combat zones had trained his nerves to steel. Leo giggled as the plane shook. "It's like a roller coaster, Daddy." Richard rolled his eyes. "Unbelievable. Some people treat flights like a carnival ride." But his words died when a sharp ding echoed through the cabin. Then came the captain's trembling voice, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a technical issue. One of our navigation systems has failed, and our first officer has fallen unconscious due to a medical emergency. If there is anyone on board with flight or military aviation experience, please report to the cockpit immediately." A cold silence gripped the air. The CEO looked around nervously. "What do they mean, failed navigation? Isn't that dangerous?" Ethan's eyes narrowed. He turned to Leo. "Stay here, buddy. I'll be right back." "Where are you going, Daddy?" "To help." Richard laughed nervously. "Help? What, you're going to fix the plane with a wrench?" But when Ethan pulled out his old Air Force ID from his wallet and handed it to the flight attendant, the smirk vanished from Richard's face. The crew rushed him toward the cockpit, relief washing over their faces like dawn breaking through storm clouds. Inside the cockpit, chaos reigned. Warning lights flashed. The pilot's breathing was shallow, his co-pilot slumped beside him. The captain looked up at Ethan, desperation in his eyes. "You said you're Air Force?" "Former," Ethan said, sliding into the seat. "But I can fly this bird." He scanned the controls, muscle memory kicking in. His hands moved swiftly, adjusting the yoke, recalibrating the system. "We've lost our primary navigation, but the backup's still responsive." "What's our altitude?" 32,000 feet and dropping, the captain shouted. Ethan steadied the aircraft, voice calm, commanding. "Everyone buckle in. I've got control." Back in the cabin, panic was spreading. Oxygen masks dangled, people cried out prayers. Leo looked toward the cockpit door, clutching his toy plane. "My daddy's going to fix it," he whispered. Richard's heart pounded. For the first time, he had nothing clever to say. Minutes felt like hours. Then, silence. The turbulence stopped. The plane leveled out. A collective gasp of relief filled the air. Through the intercom came the captain's steady voice, and Ethan's beside it. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your acting pilot speaking. We've stabilized the aircraft and are preparing for an emergency landing. Stay calm. We'll get you home safe." The passengers erupted into applause, tears streaming down faces that had moments earlier been pale with fear. When the plane finally touched down and screeched to a halt, everyone clapped louder, not out of courtesy, but gratitude. As the doors opened, the first person to stand was Richard Hale. He turned to see Ethan emerging from the cockpit, his uniformless humility more powerful than any badge. Richard walked up, his earlier arrogance gone. "Mr. Cole. I'm sorry. I didn't know." Ethan just smiled faintly. "Doesn't matter what you know. What matters is what you learn." Leo ran into his arms. "Daddy! You did it! You flew the big plane." Ethan lifted him up. "Nah, buddy. We did it. You believed in me." Passengers surrounded them, thanking Ethan over and over. Someone recorded it, a viral video that later flooded social media with the headline, "Single Dad Saves 200 Lives Mid-Air, the Hero No One Expected." A few weeks later, Ethan got a call from an aviation foundation, one Richard Hale personally funded. "We're starting a new program for veteran pilots," Richard said. "We need someone to lead it. Someone who remembers what real flight means." Ethan paused, smiling. "You sure you can handle working with a single dad who fixes planes?" Richard laughed, this time, with genuine respect. "I'd be honored." That night, as Ethan tucked Leo into bed, the boy asked, "Daddy, were you scared?" Ethan looked at him, eyes soft. "Everyone gets scared, son. But courage isn't about not being scared, it's about doing what's right anyway." Leo smiled sleepily. "Just like a fighter pilot." Ethan kissed his forehead. "Exactly." The camera could fade out there, a quiet home, a small boy dreaming of skies, and a father who'd finally learned that even the most broken wings can fly again. Never underestimate someone because of where they are in life. You don't know what battles they've fought, what skills they carry, or how much courage it takes just to keep going. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one who'll save everyone when it matters most.